Surprisingly, but not surprisingly, a lot of people don't talk about these credit cards, the credit cards that offer 0% APR for the first couple of months. And I totally understand why a lot of people don't talk about these credit cards because they're perceived to be like cash grab cards for the banks. And totally understand that thought. But what if there was another way to think about this? What if you're a responsible spender, as most of us are in this credit card community? Then you would potentially be losing out on a lot of money by not maximizing this offer. And I'm not talking about a little bit of money. I'm talking about as high as an Amex welcome offer. But instead of telling you, let me show you the math and let me show you how it works. So this is how it works. You need two things. First thing being the 0% APR card. Something like the Citi Simplicity card or the Wells Fargo Reflect. Even better is if you can get like a Chase Freedom Unlimited card or the Chase Freedom Flex. And I'll tell you why maybe some of those cards are better than others. The second thing that you need is a high yield savings account. So maybe like the Capital One savings account or the Marcus account by Goldman Sachs. Something with a higher savings rate than 0.001%. Some other things that could work are buying US bonds, or if you really want to be risky.
And it's gone.
What?
You could also invest that money into the stock market. Of course, there are some issues with that. So generally, this is how it works. So you'll apply for that 0% APR card of your choice. When you get that card, you'll be making purchases that you would be making every other day. And after you're done making those purchases, don't pay off your credit card. Only pay the minimum balance, because anything over the minimum balance, you won't be charged anything extra because you won't be paying an interest rate. And because you paid the minimum balance, you won't be charged a late fee or anything else. Then use that money that you were going to use to pay off that credit card and put that money into a savings account, or use that money to buy a bonds or invest it if you really want to. But I wouldn't really recommend investing the money into like the stock market, because when it gets time to pay off that credit card, you may not have enough money to pay off that credit card, which will be a bigger problem, because even though the stock market gives you returns of about 20% per year if you hold it for the long term, during those valleys may be a time where you need to pay off that credit card, and it's not the best option to have that tied up in the stock market where you can't use that money to pay off your credit card, which is most important, because as many as you know, credit card interest is one of the worst loan options and is brutal as hell. I mean, they can be up to 12 to 30%, so it's definitely not good to pay credit card interest as long as you can avoid it. And if you can't avoid it, of course, a personal loan would be way better than paying interest on a credit card.
Cause I have $30,000 in credit card debt.
But let's make sure that doesn't happen in the first place. So in simplicity, that's how easy it works. You make the normal purchases that you were going to make anyways, but instead of paying off your credit card, then you'll use that money to put into, personally my favorite, a high yield savings account. And when you put that money into a high yield savings account, you should be earning interest on that balance every month. So you're basically being paid to put your money in there that you would have used to pay off your credit card. And you know what's even better? You know how I said that 0% APR cards aren't all treated the same? And I'll tell you why maybe some of those cards are better than others. They're not all equal. Well, this is what differentiates them apart. There are some 0% APR cards that don't give you any multipliers or don't give you any welcome bonus offers, because they're expecting people to use their cards to just basically borrow money. However, there are some credit cards that do have multipliers, that do have a welcome bonus. For example, like I cited earlier, the Chase Freedom Unlimited, the Chase Freedom Flex. And of course, there are other cards too, like the Citi Custom Cash and the Saver One card. A lot of these cards that are our favorite cards have the 0% intro welcome offer, but I don't see a lot of people actually maximizing the use of the 0% offer that these banks give you. Actually, the opposite. A lot of people tell you to pay off the credit card as soon as possible, even if you have the 0% intro welcome offer. And I totally get it. You don't want to be bogged down with credit card debt, especially if you don't have the money backing that debt. But like I said, with this method, you do have money to back up that debt, and you should be able to pay it off without accruing any credit card interest at all. But specifically, what's nice about a lot of these credit cards is that they have a welcome bonus offer on top of it and multipliers. So you're basically doubling up on welcome offers. Like for example, not only are you earning on the Chase Freedom Unlimited the $200 welcome offer, and right now they have the 5% gas and grocery store offer, but you'll also be getting the intro APR offer for 15 months. And that's a long time to not pay off your credit card and use that money that you didn't pay off that credit card to earn some interest in a savings account. So not only are you earning the welcome bonus of $200, but depending on the money that you spend and that you save back into a savings account, that's money on top of that welcome bonus. It's a twofer. Now that I've explained the hypotheticals, details. What does this actually look like? So as many as you know, if you follow this channel, subscribe if you haven't, that I've applied for the Blue Business Plus just last year, and I was approved for a credit limit of $10,000. I put some of my normal spend that I would make every day, some of my rent spend on there to reach the welcome bonus, put things that would code as other onto that Blue Business Plus card. Because it's a catch-all card giving you 2x back on all your spend. And in a couple months, I did maximize that credit limit of $10,000. And instead of paying back the Blue Business Plus credit card, I used that money and put it into my Marcus savings account. At first it was Marcus, then I switched to the Apple savings account because it was giving slightly higher than the Marcus savings account, even though they were both ran by Goldman Sachs for some reason. It's kind of weird. And even though it was a little bit higher than $10,000, I was able to manage to put $14,000 into my savings account. And when I put $14,000 into my high yield savings account of a rate, I think it was about 5%, every month I was making about $50. So with the intro APR offer of the Blue Business Plus being 1 year, with me making about $50 in my savings account from the money that I would have used to pay off that credit card, I basically made $600 from money that isn't mine. Now can you imagine if I had the Chase Freedom Flex or the Chase Freedom Unlimited, some card that had 15 months of 0% APR offer? That $50 I was making on the savings account could have been $750 from just the length of time. Of course, this is talking about money that is a little bit over than the credit limit that I used on the Blue Business Plus. Because like I said, the credit limit was only $10,000, but I managed to save $14,000 to pay off that card. So $4,000 over. I think if it was $10,000, I think it would have been about $35. But still a good amount. $35 in 12 months, that's $420. That is the Chase Freedom Unlimited's welcome bonus times 2. So it may be something to think about. But let me be clear, this isn't the ultimate money hack, this isn't risk-free. There's definitely a risk of doing this method. Like for example, this method is only good when interest rates are high, like they are now in this economy. When interest rates are low, you're not making that much money by keeping your money into a savings account. You'll still be making some money, but of course it's not going to be a lot. Maybe it's not worth the risk at that point, especially if you get one of those 0% APR cards that don't have any multipliers, don't have any welcome bonuses. Then there's really not a point of doing this method. Which goes on to my second point, a lot of these cards that have 0% APR for the first couple months, even longer months, maybe like 21 months, a lot of these cards don't have any multipliers. So you're only relying on the fact that you can push payments for a longer period of time. Sometimes they're not even longer. Sometimes they're the same as any other credit cards. Then of course, there's the risk of not paying it back, which is totally an understandable risk. A lot of people use these cards before I even talked about these cards to basically push off their debt. But when it comes time to pay it back, then they don't have the money, and then they're gonna have to be stuck paying the credit card interest, which is really high. You definitely don't wanna be stuck doing that. But I do know a lot of people aren't responsible and won't pay off their credit card. So you're one of these people who would make a purchase but wouldn't put back the money that you would have paid off that purchase into like a savings account, then I wouldn't recommend this method for you, because you're just going to bury yourself in more debt. You have to make sure that if you're going to do this method, that you're responsible. Whatever goes out must be saved back. And real quick tip, if you're going to use this method, make sure to pay it off the month before it expires. Sometimes there can be problems of not getting the payment to go through. I've seen a lot of stories about that where people will use the 0% intro offer, and then when it comes time to pay for it, they'll pay for it, but they don't realize that they may have not paid for it on time. There's like trailing interest that they didn't account for. The payment didn't go through before the due date. So I recommend, if you're going to do this method, if your intro offer is 12 months, maybe pay it off at the end of the 11th month. An issue on the savings account side is you'll have to pay taxes on the interest that you make from your savings account. So that may dig into the value a little bit. So for you guys that don't have savings account, when it comes to the end of the year, you know, tax season, which I guess usually at the beginning of the year in January, your savings account will send you a 1099 interest form. And whatever money you made from your savings account, you'll have to declare on your taxes. So that kind of sucks. A lot of welcome offers don't require you to report it to the IRS, but usually it shouldn't be too much money, especially you're only making like $600 here and there. But I just wanted to make sure you're aware of it. Another downside with this method is it'll definitely decrease your credit score temporarily. So if you're needing to apply for a mortgage or a car loan, something that you'll need your credit score to be top notch, I definitely would not recommend this method. Your credit score will probably drop about 50 to even 80 points. But of course, that's temporarily because after you pay off that credit card, your credit score should shoot straight back up to where it would normally be at for you. But there is a way around this method. Well, if you only care about your personal credit score, is if you use a business credit card and put all the spend on that business credit card, it'll affect your business credit score, but it won't affect your personal credit score. So that's one little loophole around that. And the last downside I can think about this method is having the cash on hand. So this method definitely works well if you know you're going to be making a large purchase and you have the cash on reserves to pay for it. Like maybe you had a car repair, home improvement project, you had the money on hand that you were going to use to pay off a welcome bonus spend, but instead maybe you can make a little bit extra money on top of that. And the reason why I say it's better for larger purchases that you know you're going to spend is that's quicker money to put into your savings account to save back the money. Like for example, you're just going to be making normal purchases. Maybe it'll take you about 6 months to, spend $10,000, maybe even more. But you're only making money in the savings account that you have currently in there. So if your credit limit is like $30,000, right? But it'll take you a couple months to spend it. You don't have any real projects that you really plan for. By the time that you save and use that $30,000 or even close to it, maybe 20,000 or 10,000, you may not be putting enough money into that savings account to actually be making it worth your while. Versus you have a home improvement project that's going to cost $20,000. You got a credit card that gave you a $20,000 credit limit. Then you could put that $20,000 into a savings account day one and be making interest day one. I'm not saying that you can't do it, but I'm saying that it may not be worth it to you. But yeah, I just want to share my experience of using this method to earn some extra money on the side on top of that welcome bonus. I think it's just something interesting to throw out there that a lot of people don't talk about. Get your juices running. Maybe you have a better method to maximize this method even further than I have. But yeah, I think this will do it for this video. Remember to follow me on Pushy, and congrats on Dalton for winning the last giveaway, and I'll see you later.